not at the time that I'm recording this video, but the day I'm posting this video, it will have been 1 year since my autism diagnosis. And I wanted to make a video commemorating this because it's a big deal to me. And I have like other diagnoses, but we're focusing on the autism. I may briefly mention the other diagnoses, but we're focusing on the autism. So also, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is just my experience. If something in this video inspires you to seek a diagnosis, as hard as it can be to get one, that makes me happy. But, you know, I'm not a doctor. I have to preface with that. So, this is the first part. I want to talk about my childhood signs of it, which this isn't just my childhood, it's my entire life, but a lot of these, you know, it presents in like early childhood. We just didn't know until I was like 20, and I didn't get diagnosed until I was 22. So, I have a little list here. So I've always had really bad sensory issues. That's probably my worst symptom / trait, is my sensory issues. They've gotten a lot better over the last year or so, but they have plagued me my entire life. Like I couldn't stand bumps in my socks. If it felt like my underwear was being like riding up and giving me a wedgie, as I called it, couldn't stand that. If my toes are too squished together in my shoes, and I can't wiggle them, I lose my mind. I would freak out. Like, it was really bad. I got overstimulated very easily. I didn't know this. I didn't remember this until we were going through the diagnostic process. But I guess in like preschool, Head Start, whatever I went to, they would play little records, little songs to help us, motivate us to clean like the rooms and stuff, the classroom. And I could not handle that. I could not handle that. I had to wear little earmuffs. They got me earmuffs. Once my mom said this, I actually started to kind of remember getting earmuffs for this, but yeah, I couldn't handle how loud the music was, so we had to get earmuffs. And when she told me that, I was like, are you kidding me? This whole time I had to do that, because that is kind of like a very common autism thing, is like having to wear ear protection for certain things. There was a time, this was like when I already knew I was probably autistic, but before I got diagnosed, we were at a Kroger and I didn't remember to bring earplugs. I had to buy a pack of earplugs from the pharmacy section, so I could get through that grocery shopping trip. So that was that. Yeah, it can get really bad for me. Surprisingly, I also really like concerts, so I think it's like, but it's like a good overstimulation, if that makes sense. It's a happy overstimulation, but yeah, like I get overstimulated very easily. I did not get along with the other kids very easily. Like, I got in, not fights, but like arguments with other kids very easily. I was very argumentative. I liked being right, which I don't know if I like being right is an autism thing, but not getting along with other kids is an autism thing. Like, that is one of the signs, I guess, you know, like not getting along with other kids very well, not socializing very well. I was made fun of a lot. I was bullied because I was different. It was really bad. So that's also just something that, obviously getting bullied isn't an automatic sign of autism, but I feel like autistic kids are more likely to get bullied, like, or any neurodivergent kid, any kid that's a little bit different than the other kids. So that was part of my life, unfortunately. And then I had like special interests a lot, very specific interests. Like, I was very into Disney. I was very into Barbie. I was very into like American Girl dolls eventually. I would not shut up about American Girl dolls. My dad had to tell me to stop talking about them at some point, which was a formative experience, having him say, hey, enough about this. So that, and I still have those, obviously. And a lot of those, I still have the same ones. Like, I'm still really into Barbie. I'm still really into American Girl. Disney, mixed feelings. But I still have fond memories of my Disney days, so I'm taking things literally. Oh my gosh, this, I didn't realize I was doing this for a long time, but like jokes, I do not do well with jokes. I do not do well with sarcasm. April Fool's Day absolutely sucks, because even though it's like, yes, April Fool's Day, what if it's not a joke? And like, I'll forget it's April Fool's Day and I'll be like, okay, this is serious. Like, it's so bad. Like on Fall Out Boy, whenever the new Joker movie was announced, the second one, and they called it Folie à Deux, and then Fall Out Boy did an April Fool's Day prank where they said they were going to have Folie à Deux the musical. Like, I fell for that. I was so excited. That's my favorite album. Like, do you know how much I wanted to fully do the musical? Like, so that's still kind of a thing. I'm, like, a little bit better at humor than I used to be. I think it's just, like, a skill I've learned after socializing for so many years, and, like, a masking thing, too. Like, I had to learn how humor works so I could mask, so I could act normal, appear normal, I guess. So that's another thing. I'm bad with change, especially, oh my gosh, in, like, high school, whenever I was in, like, different classes and I was in this science class and our seating chart changed quite frequently. I hated that. Like, not really bad, like, it depends on what the change is, but also it's like, you know, what am I trying to think of? I'm trying to think of something. But yeah, so I'm not great with change, or like if I have plans, I have set plans, I have a set routine, I know what I'm gonna do. If something takes me out of that routine, I'm just useless. I'm absolutely useless. It can lead to meltdowns for me, like I'll freak out. Like I've gotten a lot better as I started talking about like my journey, learning this stuff about myself, learning how to accommodate myself. But before I knew what was going on, like I would just have meltdowns because I was like, why is this changing? Why is my routine changing? This is how we were going to do it. This is how we always do it. So that is a lot when you don't know what's going on. So that's another aspect of it for me. I'm bad with eye contact. I'm either making too much or not enough. I hate actually making eye contact, though. It's like painful for me. My friends kind of made fun of me and made me look at them in the eyes, like, come on. There's one particular friend who I'm not friends with anymore. He would just be like, you know, look at me in the eyes, Katt, look at me in the eyes. And it just, I hated it. I don't like making eye contact with people. And then I'm a very picky eater. This is a big sign, too, that I wish we would have realized, because the only vegetable, guys, I eat is broccoli. I don't eat fruit. I definitely am not getting enough fiber. I'm not picky as far as, like, meat and things like that. Like, I'll eat meat or whatever. The texture doesn't bother me. Like, if I eat chicken and there's gristle in it, that doesn't turn me off. But, like, I'm definitely not getting enough fiber. I didn't eat bread for like a majority, like sliced sandwich bread for a majority of my life, and now I only eat it when it's toasted. Like, it's weird. And I see all these little posts from like well-intentioned like autism parents where they're trying to help people understand why their kids are eating a certain way when they have autism. And it's kind of like, oh, it's unpredictable, that's why they don't like it. I don't like whatever texture it is. It doesn't matter if it's mushy or if it's crunchy. I don't like mushy or crunchy when it comes to like fruit. So I don't eat fruit. I don't eat many vegetables. Like, it's really bad. It hasn't gotten much better. I've kind of like went out there a little bit. Like, I've tried new things, but it's just not working. I'm probably gonna need to take vitamins or something at some point because like this is bad. So far I'm in good health though, but you know, you never know. Something might happen. So those are like all the signs that I have shown in my life. There's probably more that I'm not even aware of. But those are like the ones I remember the most vividly from like my childhood and on. Just like these were definite signs that something was going on with me, that we needed to find out what was going on with me and stuff like that. So that's the first part of this video. So now we will get onto the next part. So part 2, when did I first think I might be autistic? Technically, this was probably in like middle school, because I used to watch and I learned about autism at that time, and I learned about it through this toy review channel I watched. It was a mom and her son that did toy reviews, and it was like doll reviews, Monster High, Barbie, all that kind of stuff. And they found out her son at that time had Asperger's, but that's not a diagnostic term anymore. We don't use that anymore. It's bad. But her son was on the spectrum, and one of the things that her son did was like he didn't know how to react. He like would overthink how to react when he would open presents on like Christmas. Like his reactions were always like normal and like, you know, things like that. And I'm like, I relate to that like a lot, because I always feel like I'm not acting right when I open a gift. I never know how to properly react. I don't always look overtly excited. Like inside I'm excited, but outside I don't look excited. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, that's one thing. That's probably not meaning anything. And then I never mentioned it to anybody, ever. And so technically that's the first time I thought I might be autistic, but I just kind of brushed it off, you know? Because again, I was in middle school. I didn't know much about this stuff. and it wasn't like, it kind of was negatively affecting me my entire life, but like I hadn't hit like a breaking point with mental health, and I didn't know about mental health, and I didn't know how to express my mental health, even though I was struggling a lot in like middle school. But yeah, it's just, so that's technically the first time. But the first time I actually considered it was in like college. So like, to briefly sum it up, I got mental health care for the first time ever when I was in college because it came free with my tuition. They had therapy counseling services on campus. They had a psychiatrist you could see, you know, they had like stuff like that for students. And I went through a brief period where I was getting treated for ADHD, and I was taking Strattera for a few years, starting in like 2020, and it just made me worse. And it wasn't helping me as much as it needed to help. And then 2021 going into 2022, shit kind of hit the fan. 2022, shit kind of hit the fan for me. Because let's fast forward to now. As it turns out, the Strattera was making me worse because I probably don't have ADHD. I have bipolar disorder, bipolar 2. So at the time I didn't know that. But that's, to put in perspective, that was what was happening. So because I was taking Strattera, what's the word? It's the chemical serotonin-based medication when I was on bipolar 2. It was just making me go hypomanic and then depressed, hypomanic and then depressed. This pertains to my autism because when I am having a hypomanic or manic episode, my sensory issues get so much worse. Like, they're really heightened, and I'm really sensitive to things. And my sensory issues getting worse. They're affecting me every day. I couldn't wear jeans. I had to buy brand new underwear that was like thinner than most underwear because TMI, I know, but I had to do that. And then my special interests were affecting my finances, which had nothing to do with the misdiagnosis, but I was spending all my money on things, so that was also like another sign that followed me into adulthood, was just spending money on my special interests. And then after several bad experiences, finally in 2023, I went to my current nurse practitioner, and she was like, "Hi, I think you have been misdiagnosed. You have bipolar 2. I think we should try bipolar meds or antipsychotics. That's what I'm on. And we need to take you off the ADHD meds slowly." So this has nothing to do with the autism, but I need to tell you that getting treated for my bipolar 2 disorder has helped my autism, like my sensory issues specifically, immensely. I still obviously have social difficulties. I still have like some sensory issues like with food, and every once in a while my sensory issues will get a little bit worse like on my period. But yeah, so new nurse practitioner, new diagnosis. At this time I still didn't bring up the autism yet, or she wasn't sure about it yet because she was so distracted by me being manic. So we tried Abilify. That helped me immensely. It eventually was too flattening, so I had to try Vraylar, but Vraylar has also helped me immensely. But I guess they do give Abilify sometimes to help with like the agitation that comes with being autistic and like the sensory issues and stuff, which I didn't know, but it did help me with that. So obviously there's no medicine you could take to just not be autistic, because that would be weird. But it did help with some of my symptoms or traits. So that there's symptoms and traits, and some things are a symptom, some things are a trait, I think. I don't really know, I'm not an expert. But so that is so that was the breaking point in my mental health, was in like 2021 going into 2022, and then eventually 2023 also. So I was going through it for a good few years, basically a good 3 years. I was just not in a good place. So then eventually my sensory issues did lessen with medication, but they weren't perfect, and amongst other things. And I was kind of scared, because even though like she was kind of mostly right about my misdiagnosis, I was still kind of scared to come to her with the autism thing. But eventually I was just saying, hey, my sensory issues are still bothering me a lot. Like, the medication has helped, but I still get them. Like, what do I do? And she said, maybe we need to look into autism testing, which is I needed to get a psychological evaluation, a psych assessment. So that kind of brings us in to part 4, which is the evaluation. So she gave me a referral. I was so concerned when she said this, even though that's what I wanted, like deep in my heart, was an evaluation, because I was like, what about how much it costs? What about this? What about that? My mom was like, it's fine, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, you're right, I don't know why I'm questioning this, because this is what I wanted from the beginning, was my stinking autism evaluation because I knew in my heart that was what was going on. And so now we're getting to the part 4, which is the evaluation. So I just want to preface this by saying how grateful I am that my evaluation process was relatively easy. Like, it took a few months from like getting the referral to like actually getting to the evaluation. Like, I had to schedule it a few months in advance, and then once I had the evaluation, it took like a month for the results to come back. But other than that, like, this was a very quick and easy process, and I was very surprised because I've heard horror stories. So I just wanted to say, hey, I'm grateful that mine was not a horror story. It was a good experience. So, but this is a very long process. So combining with the months I was seeing this nurse practitioner before she finally gave me a referral, and then waiting on the referral, and then waiting the month to hear back. Very long process. But first, so we get to the place, which was like a psychologist's office. And then we wait in the waiting room, and then we go back with the psychologist. It was me and my mom, because you need like a person, and she's kind of my support person, so she is my support person. So so we get back there. First, she talks to both of us. We talk about my childhood, my life, my traits and things like that. And it made me think, hey, I might be autistic and other things. It was just like a regular, I forget what test she specifically did, but because they don't really tell you, they just give you the tests. And we just talked about that, talked about all the things I mentioned above, in the first part of this video. And then my mom went back to the waiting room. Actually, my mom had to fill out her own test, like paper test. But then she did some like verbal assessments on me, where like she asked me these questions, and they were like their own kind of tests, and my answers were like, she wrote down my answers and stuff, which is very interesting. The paper assessments, there was like over 500 questions on one of these paper assessments, and it was similar like going to school and taking a test. There was like a bubble sheet, and you filled in the bubbles. So those were so scary, because I was like, what are these questions even having to do with this? I don't remember any of them really. I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about like what specific questions they were. I'm really not sure. But those took so long. I felt like I was there forever. I was in this room by myself, just answering questions, bubbling in answers, 500 or more, and there was multiple of these. So then we finished the process, and I thought we'd know that day. No, we had to wait like a month to hear back. So I took the test in November. I heard back December 19th, 2023. And so it's been a year since then now. And when I finally heard back of my psych evaluation, there are 3 things that it said, or 4 things that I was tested for. So I was diagnosed with autism level 1, requiring support. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, which I already had previously from the psychiatrist from Shawnee State. And then they don't think I have ADHD either. So that was a big thing too, because it was just a big deal, because that used to be like my identity in a way, was like ADHD. So it's like, okay, that's probably not going on. I wasn't diagnosed with any depressive disorders, which makes sense, because other than like depressive episodes from the bipolar 2, I've never been like clinically depressed, which I am grateful for, because I know it sucks. And like, I have relatives who deal with clinical depression, and I just hate seeing them struggle with it. So like, I'm grateful that I don't have to struggle with that. But if that makes sense. So that's how the evaluation went. Really quick and kind of painless, which was nice. I know not everyone's that lucky, so I'm very grateful. So yeah, cool. That was the evaluation. So part 5 is, now what? What do I do now? Well, there's not really much you can do. There's not a lot of unless you have like a higher level of support needs, there's not a lot of accommodations you can get as an adult with autism. Not that I'm aware of. I haven't tried to get any, because at work I have not like official accommodations, but I have been worked for people who are very accommodating with the fact that I get overwhelmed easy, so that's really nice. But I mostly work on accommodating myself. Like, I have to buy, which it's not as prevalent now with like the clothing issue, but like I'll for times like buy comfy clothes, buy a specific kind of underwear. I mainly wear like sports bras and bralettes because they're more comfortable. Very picky about socks, things like that. They can't be too thick or anything, so like just accommodate myself, buy the things that are comfortable and that I can wear. Another accommodation is for my period. I use tampons now because I cannot stand the feeling of a pad or a diaper or anything out external, so I have to wear tampons. I thought about getting the cup or like the disc, but I don't want to have to reach that far up into me to get something out in a public bathroom, so I'll probably stick with the tampons. Oh, medication is another combination. This is mainly for the bipolar too and the anxiety, but they do help kind of with the agitation I get from being autistic, you know, the sensory needs and things. They kind of help chill me out a little bit, so that way I am not as agitated. So that kind of is more of an accommodation for the bipolar and the anxiety, but it's still an accommodation. I guess meds count as an accommodation, I'm not sure. But, so those help a lot. I'm really grateful that medication works for me, because I know for some people it doesn't work and it's kind of hard to just do things. So I'm very grateful that I have the right cocktail of meds, I guess you'd call it. I use earplugs when I need to. I literally can't do chores without listening to music through my headphones or listen to a YouTube video or something like that. I have to use headphones to help me function. Earplugs for like when I get overwhelmed at the grocery store, which isn't as common now because of the, you know, the medication, but I'm grateful that the medication is helping me with my sensory issues so much. Earplugs and headphones, fidget toys. I have a collection of fidget toys, and if I need something to do with my hands, those help me a lot. Comfort items, stuffed animals, dolls, jewelry, things like that. Like I have comfort items, like I'll bring a doll to therapy, I'll bring a stuffed animal to therapy, things like that if I need comfort. So, or like I have lucky jewelry, things like that. I don't know if I'd call it an accommodation, but just things that comfort me. I am doing a lot better now, thank God. That is something too. Just in general, I am doing a lot better now. And I am thankful for that. And like I'm glad this story so far has a happy ending, which mental health isn't linear, it fluctuates, so sometimes I'm doing better off and sometimes I'm not doing so good, but overall like I'm doing a lot better than I was. So that was I think that dark period is over for a good while. It's been over for a good while, so I'm grateful for that. So part 6 is the conclusion. So how do I conclude this video? So I just want to reiterate that this is my story, so like if some of it resonates with you and you do look into getting diagnosed, I wish you the best of luck with all that, but this is just my story. I'm not a doctor. I'm happy to share this story with you because other people I look up to, like Dan Howell, his depression video, are like, I just found out recently that Jacksepticeye, a YouTuber I used to watch a lot, he found out he has autism, so I thought this was a good day to record this video because it's kind of in the spirit of like, oh, he just found out. I didn't find out till I was 22. So it's, you know, it's just crazy. Some people wait that long to find out really important things about themselves. But yeah, so I just want to say I'm grateful for where I am, and I'm grateful that I got my diagnosis because that's what I wanted, was the diagnosis, like it was a positive thing for me. And I just want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully if there's any of my other like neurodivergent peeps out there, I hope you guys, you know, felt seen with this video. So thank you for watching and stay safe.